Hello, and welcome everyone to a new Heroes of Might and Magic Olden era video. In this one, I'm going to be reviewing the NECROPOLIS faction. This is the second last review video that we are going to be making. And yeah, I'm going to be going over the heroes that we play, why we play them, how the faction works, what units work, and why they do what they do. So, I hope you guys are tucked in tight as we're going to be reviewing the, yeah, Necro. It's really cool. So let's hop into a custom game so we can take a look throughout all of the heroes. And, yeah. Wait, I need to get, I mean, yeah, there's going to be like no shortage of selection of amazing heroes here. And we're starting off like really strong. We have Bulwark. So there's actually like very few, actually he might be the only one that at least I can remember off the top of my head, armor specialist. This guy's the czar, and for some reason he belongs in NECROPOLIS. On him, your units take quite a bit less damage, and yeah, he also starts with armor. So this guy is the king of tanks, okay? It's gonna be like pretty hard to bleed the army on him. Like immediately, he's gonna be pretty strong with the armor specialty. It is really good, super strong, just like an A-tier hero. He's not the option for like every template and every situation, but he should always be at the very least considered. And very oftentimes he's just gonna be like straight up banned, so you don't have to worry about it. Bulwark is, yeah, awesome. Next up is the King of Kings. So this is like a flea sort of hero, not meant for one hero gameplay, which I specialize in. So yeah, not really too interesting. Starts off with Diplo, back filler. Next up is Onkos. Now Onkos is awesome. So yeah, there's been like some tier 1 hero specialists, unit specialists that I've been bashing on. However, Onkos is not going to be one of them. Because skeletons are really good, as it has been in pretty much every Heroes of Might and Magic hero game. Necro tier 1s are always very cool. However, in Olden era, you can actually have skeleton archers. So you can start off with a bunch of skeletons, upgrade them to archers, and then suddenly you have like a massive range power stat that you can rely on to be creeping very easily. Under Oculus' control, they also gain speed, initiative, and HP, and of course stats as well. This hero is excellent. He starts doing fights like really early, and is gonna be just doing like a really good job running through the game. It's also really good that you get basic offense at the beginning of the game, because when you get hit advanced offense, you're gonna be able to pick up archery from the sub-skill, making your skeletons deal way more damage, even if you do go skeleton archers. Next up is Skelghoul. This hero is amazing. This is the Dread Knight Specialist. So you're gonna be getting your growth increased by 2. That's very special. Most unit specialists increases the growth of the respective unit by 1, but Skelghoul increases it by 2. That is insane. You don't really need like any support or dwellings in order to get like a really good Dread Knight stack when you're going to be playing Skelghoul. Then of course he gives like all the other usual bonuses, and he starts off the game with these tier 6 units, making the map pretty easy to clear. By the way, even like the skeleton special, yeah, he's providing as many Dread Knights as Onkos is providing skeleton growth. That is insane. The only downside is that he starts off with tactics, which is not exactly a skill that you necessarily want to be starting with, but, you know, it is what it is. Skelghoul is still amazing. Next up is Natalita. She is a scouting hero. Scouting is not usually that much of a preferred skill in most formats, especially like super early on. She specializes in the tier 3 unit of the faction Undead Pet. So she increases their growth and gives like all the usual stat arenas. She's not very popular and she's not very picked very often. I could sometimes see like trying to experiment with her if all of my other primary choices ended up getting banned. I think the main problem with her is the fact that her starting secondary skill, scouting, is just not really that preferable to many of the other skills that you could be getting. Next up is we have Artorius Veritas, who starts with the Masterful Berserk spell. This version of the spell affects all creatures adjacent to the target. The cost of the spell is reduced by 1 mana for every 3 hero levels. And he also starts off with resistance. So honestly, the hero like looks amazing. If you get to late game, you get to like AoE Berserk things. You know, that sounds amazing, right? However, wrong. The fact that you start off with resistance, that doesn't do anything for you, and you also start off with a spell and specialize on a spell that you're not really going to be casting for the longest time, means that you're basically playing without a hero for, you know, like weeks on end. Meanwhile, the other player's probably benefiting from having like a useful hero and having a way nicer of a game. So, you know, this specialty is interesting, however, not competitive, at least the way that the game is right now. Next up is we have Marl. Now, this hero is pretty spectacular. So, Expert Slow was notorious in Heroes of Might and Magic 3 for being super oppressive, super broken, and honestly it was even banned in most one-hero formats, just like straight up banned, because like, what can you do? It's just like so powerful that it trivializes the entire game. And now we have a hero that actually has the OG Heroes 3 Expert Slow. Masterful Web. Yeah, this version of the spell affects all enemies. And he also gets some power for it. And the secondary skill is also like pretty useful, Logistics. So you get a specialty, Web, that lets you do fights like pretty easily, especially if you go Liches, Skeleton Archers, then you get everything to not move and you're just having like a really good time. And of course, you know, so you get to fight off of Web and then you have Logistics to be able to like move faster. This hero is amazing. Like S tier on Sprint, A tier on the other templates, he's just really, really good, and even like surprisingly good. I did not really see this coming, him being that good, when I first saw him. Next up is we have Therius. If you really like going for like a lot of necromancy, a lot of investment, then he's the guy for you. He has more necromancy power, and he also grows in necromancy power throughout the game. And also starts off straight up with advanced necromancy. Also, a really excellent hero that is picked in most of these slower formats as like the priority choice. So if you're going to be playing like some Exodus, if you're going to be playing some Harmony, where, you know, like the game tends to go like pretty late game, then Therius is going to be able to like just generate so much army and be so good. And for that reason, yeah, he's also like just an amazing one. Next up is Zam, Mercury guy, with Battlecraft. Like, come on. You want your specialty to be giving you something more than just generating resources, so Zam is bad. Next up is we have Mag, Arcane Magic Specialist. Also really bad, because arcane spells really suck in the entire early game. They have like a package where you kind of like play around with like focus charges, which can be like sometimes like vaguely decent. But yeah, this hero doesn't really like do a lot at all. And arcane spells are, you know, you just don't really want to invest a lot into them that early. Next up is we have Adon, the White Specialist. Her main problem is the fact that she starts off with recruitment. Whites are very excellent units on Necropolis, and many people cleared the map on whites alone. So, if you don't know, whites have a special ability. When they hit something, they're going to be getting percentage of the damage dealt as extra HP for their stack that can actually overheal you, basically giving you Shadow Army. So you go into a fight, you have like 100 whites, and then you hit something, you suddenly have like 130 whites, you know, they hit you back some, they get you down to like 110, but basically you're playing the fights with cheated units. So whites are really good. So you would think that the White Specialist would be pretty good, however, she's trash. She starts off with recruitment, one of the worst skills in the game, and because of that reason, she is overlooked and just generally kind of bad. Next up is we have Efric. Efric is like a middle of the pack hero. He's a Lich Specialist, which is a pretty good specialty. However, he starts off with Wisdom, which is a skill that is like not bad to have, but doesn't really like do that much for you early on. I played like a really beautiful game of Harmony on him, just because I wanted to try him, and it worked out great. But now that I have like more Necro experience, I understand that I probably could have done quite a bit better on many of the other heroes that would have been, you know, in consideration. So Efric you would pick if you either really like glitches or, I don't know, maybe if the opponent somehow bans like 5 or 6 heroes, then he would be like maybe like the 7th best one in some scenarios. Next up is we have Guildmaster Clastor. He is a Grave Robber Specialist. However, he starts off with basic luck. And also, Grave Robbers are like pretty slow units that are pretty hard to rely on. So, Clastor doesn't really like see a lot of gameplay. Yeah. These like slow, long-range units, they don't really like make sense to power stack that much. You kind of want things to like go into them rather than them going into other things, and it just ends up as like a pretty awkward playstyle. You would rather be relying on the other Necro units. So Clastor, despite being very cool, ends up, you know, despite having luck, he's kind of out of it. Next up is we have Shadespitter Una. She is a Nightshade spell specialist that starts off with sleep. Basically, the specialty is like pretty weird because it gives you like way more Nightshade spell levels than you would ever need. So by that point, you may as well like pick up another specialty and then just go Nightshade magic, and you're gonna be basically like just having a way better time. Stopping the opponent from casting Nightshade spells is not really that big of a deal. The reason why it's like not really that big of a deal is because the opponent from the very beginning of the game will know exactly that they will not be able to cast any, you know, Nightshade spells. So stopping them from casting them doesn't really like matter because he's just gonna prepare Daylight Magic or Primal Magic, and you know, then your specialty didn't really do anything. So yeah, just kind of feels bad. Next up is we have an amazing 2 heroes. The first one is Laura. Laura is a sorcery hero with Masterful Despair. And this is like a really cool one. Despair is like generally like a really good spell. It's available super early. If you get it to level 4, it's gonna be AoE, rank 1, damaging spell that deals damage very efficiently for every single mana point that you're gonna be spending on it. And what Laura will do is it will let you cast Despair on any type of unit. So usually Despair, the reason why it's like not really that good is because you can't target magic creatures, embodiments, undead, and you know, like almost every creature has like a tag that says, hey, you cannot Despair this. And Laura gets past all of that, and she can use Despair to tempo hard. So yeah, she's a pretty good hero. Next up is we have Lord Rufus. He starts with the Rewind Life. So just having Rewind Life immediately is gonna be making him like a really good hero. And then it also makes it so Rewind Life can overheal. So, you know, if you don't have like any units to revive, you're just gonna be stacking units on top of that. They will not last after battle, but you know, it's still like a really powerful specialty to have. And yeah, his main downside is the fact that he starts with Thaumaturgy, which is going to be doing basically nothing for you throughout the entire early game. So that is unfortunate. Next up is we have Funerella. So she is just like Therius, except that she is a Necromancer rather than a Death Knight. And usually I prefer Death Knight. However, if you really want to play with this like Necromancy special team and Therius is banned, then Funerella can be the hero for you. She might also be preferred on Vendetta, or templates where you generally need a lot of knowledge, more so than just fighting power. So yeah, solid hero. And then we have the Gold Specialist. Nobody really cares about the Gold Specialist, let's be real. So yeah, the highlights are Bulwark, Onkos, Kelgul, Therius, and then Oh wait, I missed out on Marl. So yeah, there's like so many great heroes that even, you know, like if the opponent bans out like 3 top tier heroes, you're basically always still going to be able to pick another remaining top tier hero. So just for this fact alone, Necro is like really powerful in ranked matchmaking, and many people are picking it and having like very great success with NECROPOLIS. NECROPOLIS is in really great shape right now. So yeah, let's get into the game. So we are just going to be starting one. And the first thing that I will do inside of the game is explain necromancy, because very many people have like very many questions about, hey Lexium, how does this necromancy thing work? I see points, I sometimes take fights, I very often don't get units, sometimes I get units that I don't expect, and you know, like what is happening? I shall tell you exactly what's happening with necromancy. Okay, so we have spawned into a game. We will just like, okay. So we will just pick Grave Soil, we will just pick up, Shooty Boys, just so we can do a fight without having to worry about it, and, okay. So there we go. So as a Necro hero, you are going to be having Necro Power that is going to be like written over here. You can always like refer to what your Necro Power is. And then you also have these Necro Points. You can see them on the left side of your hero. Right now I have the full stack of 1250 Necro Points. And if you're over here, then you can also see how much energy you will need to use in order to get one creature of a certain tier. So in order to get one skeleton, I need to spend 5 necrotic energy. And then... so yeah, let's see. So we're going to be attacking these tier 1 creatures with 20% necromancy power. So actually no, we're going to be attacking these troglodytes instead. So we have 20%, we are going to be attacking it, and let's see what we would expect. So we ended up fighting 54 troglodytes. 20% of 54 is going to be about 10, yeah, we're going to be getting like 10 skeletons back, because we fought tier 1 creatures that we have some of. And we have 20% necromancy, so let's see if that's what will happen. We get 6. So anyway, I'm not really sure how the map works, but math works out. However, the gist of it is this. Whenever you're going to be going into a fight, you're going to be you need to fight like a certain tier of creature. So, and that is referring to the creature on display. So if there's like, a creature which has like multiple creatures inside of the fight, then it will only refer to the highest tier creature. I just want to find like a tier 2 fight to take in order to show you. Well, okay. So if you were to fight this tier... oh, actually this is... yeah, so if you fight this like tier 3 stack, then you will be raising pets instead. However, you can only raise units that you have like some of at the ending of the fight. If you do not have any units corresponding to the unit representing the fight, then you will not be able to like res any units at all. However, if you're not, your necromancy is still not wasted. Instead of like gaining nothing, you will be gaining back your necromantic energy. So you want to like take some fights of the units against the tier of units that you want to res, and then you want to take some whatever fights in order to like build back your necromancy power. And that's generally how you play the faction. Also, sometimes you might want to not use necromancy in order to like preserve your necromantic power. Maybe like you're about to hit like a new power spike with enemy dead. You know, you're going to be able to like res more. So you want to like reserve. And so you can deactivate it by just clicking here. Or clicking the spell in the spell book. It can be toggled off and on. So yeah, you're going to be raising units of the tier that you're fighting up against. You're going to be resing units only if you have a unit of the corresponding tier on your army. And if you don't, you're just going to be farming necromantic power instead. That is how necromancy works. Good? Good. Also, I believe I got 6 skeletons because only like the top of the stack counted. So the other 20 didn't count, and I had like 34 trogs in one stack, so I raised those 34 as like 6 skelly archers. So like for example, for this fight, I would only be raising these guys that are on display, which is going to be the Ravager parasites. So I'm going to be getting a percentage of these guys, 20% of these guys as skeleton archers if I were to fight them. So, now let's go over the units. First up, we have the skeleton. There's not really much to say about the skeleton. This is like your slow but reliable unit that you get a lot of, and that's why they're good. Next up is you have the skeleton warrior. So if you want your skeletons to be like a, you know, threatening melee power stack with a lot of stats, then skeleton warrior is the one for you. However, most usually, skeleton archers do like a really good job. They feel so good to use because they're the good old reliable. They're going to be shooting every single turn, just like amazingly useful. Their stats are pretty low, but they make up for it in quantity. Whenever you're going to be playing like a big skeleton archer stack, you really want to be going for some base damage. So like the item Drums of War is going to be like really good. That's like +1 base damage to you if you upgrade. If you're going offense, you want to go Shadow Blade, sub-skill. That is also like just like 1 flat damage, you know? 1 flat damage to a skeleton archer is going to be immediately 50% more damage. Insane stuff. You can make them deal like tremendous damage. So yeah. That is it for the tier 1. Next up is the tier 2. I don't really like these guys because, yeah, I just didn't really like try them out that much yet. However, these are like very squishy, but very fast and cool tier 2 units. They have the special ability of the Memory Devourer. What this does is each attack converts 20% of the damage dealt into additional HP. This can create temporary units in the creature stack. So as I said, you're going to be like attacking with 100 whites, and then suddenly you're going to be having like 120 whites. Then you can bleed out those 20 whites that you built at the top of the stack, and you will be losing nothing. So basically they are printing out army for the fight that you can lose without losing any actual army, which makes fighting very good and very easy. As long as they protect them, so they are the first ones to hit. They're usually going to be the first ones to hit because of their high initiative and high speed. So for this reason, people really like focusing on the whites. They are pretty useless in PvP battles because and it's really easy for other players to just one-shot them because they have like no defense skill. It's pretty funny. Next up is we have the Brave, just like a direct upgrade of the white. They will now get 40% of the damage converted into HP. Amazing. They gain even more initiative, more speed, and a little bit more attack skill. They also get this ability, force the target enemy creature to move to a random axis possible. So like, you can really pressure shooters with this, you know. You howl away some blocker for a range unit, and then you take their spot and, you know, haunt the ever-living shit out of range units. Very good. The other upgrade is Phantasm. They don't have the active ability, but they have Nightmares, which is going to be dealing, yeah, it's just going to be dealing damage over time to your opponents whenever you hit them. It's not a very useful ability. The more useful part of Phantasm is that finally they are getting a little bit of defense skill. However, Wraiths are usually going to be like the go-to option. The 4 defense skill doesn't really matter because you're going to be giving them defense skill from your hero, hopefully. So yeah. That is the pretty awesome tier 2 of the Necro faction. Next up is we have the boring ass tier 3, Undead Pet. These are just like pretty beefy boys. They're there to just like tank up for you. And they also take, you know, like less melee damage. They are mediocre speed, mediocre stats. They're just like really there. Yeah, I was never like really... I'm neither impressed, neither disappointed by these guys. They're really just there. They really are just a pet. Then you can also upgrade them to Bargus, which is like a pretty offensive upgrade, giving them actually insane initiative and more speed. And you also get the ability, Call of the Pack, which makes them summon, which makes them basically like Shadow Army themselves. This ability is like not really that useful because it's a little bit too slow. You need to generate the focus, and you need to get the turn, then you need to actually click the ability, then you need to wait for your next turn, and then you can start reaping the benefits of Call the Pack. So for that reason, I don't really trust it whatsoever. You also have Bone Crusher, reduces the target's defense by 1 with each strike and gains an equal amount until the end of the battle. So they are like, you know, stacking up throughout the fight too. The other one is the Armored Hound. These guys are a little bit annoying to fight up against in the wild because they also have damage over time. Attacks wound the target, damaging them at the beginning of every round. And yeah. Fighting against this feels pretty bad. Then they also have Protect the Fallen. Whenever a friendly creature dies, this creature gains +3 defense until the end of the battle. So these guys are just there to be tanky, be a little bit annoying. You don't usually power stack them. They are literally just there. Next up is we have the Grave Robbers. So I said I'm neither impressed nor disappointed by Armor Hounds. Well, when it comes to Grave Robbers, I'm both impressed and disappointed at the same time. They are sometimes the best units, sometimes the worst units, and you very rarely are they anything in between. So the basic Grave Robber is just like a long reach unit attacker with exceptionally low speed and initiative. However, with the special ability to, you know, dig up bones, which is just going to be like straight up summoning a bunch of army, which is very useful. Minus the fact that NECROPOLIS both has like a pretty hard time generating focus, and also they have like a very focus-hungry lineup. I will explain to you a little later why. Well, actually, we're almost next to tier 5. Usually you want to focus on using your focus on Rewind Death. It's a pretty high cost focus ability, however, it is ridiculously powerful as this is just like a straight up resurrection that your unit can cast. And not to mention, usually on your heroes you will also pick up the secondary skill called Eternal Service. This is a free focus ability that is also just resurrection for your undead army. So as long as you have focus, you will never be bleeding out your army. So that's why, despite this being like a really good ability, it's pretty hard to fit into the undead roster. They upgrade into on Merchant of Death as well, which will make them be able to dig up whites as well for free focus charges. I mean, yeah, like really insane cost. They also have Blighted Corpses, long reach attacks poison the target, so yeah, they also have like this damage over time gimmick as well, and some of the other previous upgrades. I haven't really ever seen people willingly try to play Merchant of Death. They're still like abysmally slow, they consume too much focus, so yeah. However, if you are going to be playing Grave Robbers, unironically and seriously, Candlemasters is the one for you. Now these guys are pretty cool. They have like a little bit more speed, 5 initiative and 5 speed. Sorry, my camera's blocking it. But the speed is 5, that's the only thing that you can see. And yeah, these guys dig up pets for 2. And for every single Candlemaster, they summon 1 pet. And that is like a really good ratio. This ability becomes good enough for you to actually like use your focus on this rather than something else. It also does not end your turn, so you can summon the pets while something is close to you. And then you also can hit with your pretty high damage attack on the Candlemaster. So yeah, they can be like pretty decent in some specific formats. So yeah. It's a weird unit, really. They're so hard to use, but when you get to like use them really properly, they can feel broken. So yeah, it's kind of weird that this unit that can really feel broken is not really getting like that much attention. So yeah, next up is we have Lich. Lich is really the carrier of the faction, in my opinion. They're just like a basic shooter. They're really slow, but that's okay because they're a shooter. Their stats are pretty high for a tier 5 unit, and it's usually like pretty easy to get like a lot of them too, so that is awesome. And you have the special Rewind Death button over here, which is going to be usually raising a ridiculous amount of army every single time that you cast it. It does have a cooldown, and you can only use it twice per battle. However, this ability is good enough to sustain you throughout your creeping. Very usually, some factions are going to be like bleeding out some army, like here and there. Necro, usually before the end of the fight, is going to be picking all of their army back up and even gaining more from Necromancy. That is what makes them really powerful, and Lich is the unit to enable this sort of playstyle. They are amazing. Very, very good. Then you have, of course, the upgrades, and as all units do, the Pestilent Lich that will be getting the Area Strike that we know and love from the previous Heroes of Might and Magic games. And they will also have Death's Embrace. Trigger all effects applied on the target instantly using their full remaining duration. So this can actually one-shot targets like pretty easily. You would despair something, and then you would activate this ability in order to proc all of the despair turns immediately, one-shotting something. It sounds like a really interesting playstyle. However, I haven't really like seen anyone be able to like use this that effectively quite yet. Maybe I'll be the one to try it, and yeah, you can catch that live on my stream, twitch.tv/Lexchef. Speaking of stream, here's my stream coming into my video. Sorry about that. Yeah. So that's why Pestilent Liches are really like not that popular, because their playstyle is like a little bit too niche, and they also lose the Rewind Death ability that actually enables the entire faction to function way better. So usually people are going to be upgrading to Sanguine Liches instead. Now they actually increase the amount of XP gain for your hero, which is pretty awesome. And they will also be healing with their attacks. When I first read this ability, I thought it would be broken. However, the heal feels absolutely insignificant. Yeah, it can also like not revive fallen units, so you know, like it doesn't pick your units back up. It just like heals up the top of the stack, and pathetically so as well. So yeah, this is whatever. It's not really much. However, it's all in the Rewind Death anyway. Sanguine Liches get a better multiplier on the amount of HP that you restore, so that's why you would upgrade them. And of course for the XP gain, why not? Next up is we have the Giga Chad Dread Knight. Dread Knights in this game have a very low attack, however, they get double strike, so they are reaping. And whenever they're reaping, they're also proccing Dreadful... Never mind. And that's like the other Death Knight. Yeah, so this guy also has minus morale for all of the opponents. Just like a sturdy, cool, actually very cheap tier 6 unit that does quite a bit of work. Nice. They also have like insane initiative and good speed. They have like two very different upgrades. One of them is going to be the Avatar of War. They gain insane amount of damage whenever you upgrade, even more initiative. They keep their double strike, and now they will have War Incarnate. For each attack, this creature reduces the target's attack by 1 and gains an equal amount until the end of the battle. This effect cannot be dispelled. So throughout the course of the fight, whenever the avatar is going to be attacking, it's going to be gaining attack, and it's also going to be reducing attack across the battlefield, stacking infinitely. So that is, yeah, very powerful, especially because they attack twice. So this is usually the go-to upgrade. The other option is Hollow Reaper. As you can see, the stats on Hollow Reaper are quite a bit better. They're gaining like a lot of attack skill and a lot of damage. However, they actually are the way less damagey of the Dread Knights. And that is because they lose their double strike ability. And that is like a very, very big weakness. They have Death Stare though, which means that they will be killing +1 unit. Yeah, up to tier 7. So one slice of these guys could actually be like assassinating quite a few tier 7 units, which could be kind of cool, but pretty niche. You usually want these guys in a power stack. Then there's also the Hungering Hollow. Whenever a friendly creature dies, this creature gains +3 attack until the end of the battle. Killing off your own units is like not really a reliable way to gain attack skill, so this ability feels a little bit insignificant. The best part about the Hollow Reaper is their Reap without sowing. So if you have 2 focus charges to spend, you get to hit the target and all adjacent enemies to it. So you're basically like just nuking so many hexes at the same time. A really powerful ability. If it weren't for the fact that the liches really want those focus points in order to keep everything alive and keep everything sustained, so you better not damn reap without sowing or reap your face. So that's why this is kind of niche. Focus points don't come easy for Necro, and usually liches get the priority to spend them. That is the hierarchy. So that's why Hollow Reaper is actually the Avatar of War, and yeah, that way everyone is way happier. Next up is we have the Vampire. Now this guy is the biggest disappointment that I've ever seen in the entire game. Like, what the hell are these? These guys get outbrawled by everything. Their stats for a tier 7 unit are like entirely inexcusably bad. Like, horrible. I don't even like... It's hard to describe. You take like these tier 7 units and they're just getting outbrawled by like tier 5 units, like a Reaver. Yeah, it's insane. They don't do anything then. They of course have their usual vampirism. However, you only get like 40% of the damage dealt back as HP. Yeah. It also does not affect undead embodiments or constructs. So, yeah, that's also a thing. Very many creatures in the game are undead, embodiment, or construct. Even like the Angel tier 7. You can't even vamp against a temple unit these days. Oh my god. Yeah. They're... when you upgrade to the Vampire Lord, you just get like a slightly higher stat. You get like the Swift Strike, so you finally don't suffer counterattacks whenever you're gonna be like Vamp Lording. Still though, these stats are just really garbage, so he's like pretty hard to use. They are really cool though, like in terms of looks, in terms of like aesthetics, the fact that the Vamp Lord is like tier 7 is like hella fucking cool, I'm not gonna lie. And then the other upgrade is gonna be the Vampire Scholar, who now get a reach attack, meaning that they're basically like casting Vlad Q, if you ever played League of Legends, on the opponents. And, you know, like basically transfusing themselves with the opponent's blood. Now that thematic is like really cool. Then you also get this blood transfusion for 3 focus points. Connects an enemy to a target-friendly creature. The enemy takes a lot of magic damage. The friendly creature restores 100% of the damage dealt as HP. This can revive fallen units. So this ability is like pretty cool. Basically, instead of like attacking and vamping for yourself, you are attacking something and vamping for a different unit in your army. Basically sustaining them. This is just a worse Rewind Death. It costs more focus. It has like more nuances. Yeah. This is just the worst Rewind Death. So yeah, this is like not a very special ability. And then there's also Corpse Explosion. Blows up a chosen corpse. All adjacent enemies take 30 times amount of units. So basically like attack damage worth of damage. And all adjacent friendly creatures restore as much HP. This cannot revive fallen units. Yeah, so you get like a tiny little bit of a heal. And you deal AoE damage. Pretty easy for the opponents to play around. The focus cost is like way too high. Honestly, vampires... They did vampires dirty, man. At least they are aesthetically really cool. Okay, so what is the upside of the vampire? The upside of the vampire is that you get like very many of them. They have a base growth of 2. The only tier 7 unit in the game, in the entire game, that has a growth of 2. So that is really cool. And if you get like a box of vampires, instead of like getting 7 angels, you're getting like 13 vampires. So their box count is also very much, yeah, it's like just far higher. And they also have like really good initiative, so they're gonna be like good for catching turns. And Yeah, they're like around, they kind of like self-sustain. They don't usually perform well as a vampire lord does in Heroes of Might and Magic Frame. That's not their style. You have to like unfortunately forget about that play style. Sometimes it can be like good for like a turn or two if you have like no better way to go, but yeah. Vampires are pretty weak. They are utility and they are units to be hoarded. You know, if you have like super many of them, then they can be kind of nice. So yeah, that's that when it comes to the units. Then next up is let's talk about their laws. So, oh yeah, they are a Nightshade magicians. So that means that they're going to be casting a Natural Calm, which is like a really good spell. Reduces all of the all of the opposition damage by 30%. Insanely good spell. They will also cast Despair in order to deal damage. They also like have a law that will be increasing damage over time effects by 50%. So on Undead, Despair is better. And then you also have like Nightshade levels in your laws as well. So when it comes to playing Undead, they have like very big synergy towards Nightshade magic. So always keep that in mind. Lots of their laws involve like boosting up their necromancy on this left side. You have like enemy dead, enemy dead, enemy dead, and enemy dead, which is going to be increasing your necromancy power further and further up as you go throughout the game. So if you're going to be like playing a necromancy type of necromancer, then this law set is actually like really good. The unit laws are pretty stock, you know, they gain like a little bit of stats and they gain like a little bit of growth. There's like not really anything to be said about that, except that they're actually like pretty easily accessible. Usually the tier 6 unit law is in the further requirement, and the tier 7 creature law is in the 50 law point requirement. So these laws are a little bit easier to unlock earlier than they would be for other factions, which is pretty cool. There's also like this law, which means vampirism of friendly creatures increased by 50%. I'm not exactly sure why this is not just like a direct law in order to like upgrade vampires. Why is it like vampirism in general? Are we gonna be getting some more vampirism? Because for now I'm pretty sure that the only vampiric units are the vampires, so I'm not really sure where they're going with this. You know, like maybe some foreshadowing. Kinda cool. Then we have like a package here of laws as well later on. We have your Necropolis heroes always battle on their native terrain. So you could be going to a battle, like somewhere in snow, and suddenly you're in the battlefield and you're going to be fighting yourself on the cold, dead dirt, and your opponent will be too. And then you can also have like extra benefits for that, such as return to the soil. Friendly creatures battling on their native terrain gain +1 speed. So suddenly you're driving them back into your terrain, then you're gaining like extra bonuses on that terrain off of your lost set. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Then there's also this like Death's Presence. Enemy non-Necropolis creatures deal less damage and take more damage. Your non-Necropolis creatures gain the opposite effect. So basically... Yeah, so this is making you like way better against anything non-Necropolis, I suppose? Yeah. Then you also have like 1 free retaliation here, which is like pretty good for vampires, pretty good for like the Death Knights, not bad. You also get this magic absorption, which means that the enemy is losing 1 level on all schools of magic, which is actually like a pretty strong effect. Especially with if you combine it with similar effects from other places as well. So yeah, basically this set of laws is pretty good. It's like very specific, but it actually like helps you do what you're already doing rather well. So it ends up feeling like really good. You get like early despair, then you're like stacking up your necromancy, so you're building army, then you're gaining like fighting power through like this terrain package, you're picking up your unit laws along the way. It just like feels very, very nice. Yeah. So that is Necropolis in Olden era, a very strong faction, and usually Necropolis is like pretty hard for people to get into, but I feel like the fact that we have like so many ways to resurrect units with liches, with Eternal Servitude from the Necromancy subskill, makes Necropolis easy to function, I mean easy to play with, and everyone that is like trying it is actually having like really great success. So I feel like finally Necropolis is gonna be, you know, enjoyed by everyone. And I think it's mostly thanks to the Skeleton Archer. This unit feels so amazing. Like you can't believe like how much work it is in Heroes of Might and Magic 3 to get this like speed 4 unit in order to like connect with something. You have this power stat that can one-shot anything, but it will never reach anything in this life, so it's just like sitting there growing in number, and you never know if this number growing will actually end up paying itself off at any point. And Olden Air completely like solved this dilemma by just giving them a cute little wooden bow. 10 out of 10. So yeah. Today I've been actually, in preparation for this video, been playing Necro a lot, and it's been so much fun. Would definitely recommend. Thanks for watching. That is gonna be it for me today. I am streaming every single day on twitch.tv/LexShav. If you want to see some top 10 Olden era gameplay, then make sure to come by. And yeah, I'm not bluffing, I'm climbing these days. If you look at the leaderboard on Classic, I mean on Single Hero, I'm gonna be ranked number 7 now. I recently beat Slark here in a game as well, so yeah. I'm going for that ranks 1 spot, and you don't want to miss it. So, see you tomorrow with the Schism video. Bye-bye!